Right. Right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm delighted to welcome two very wonderful people online for one of our PA Forum in Conversation with events. And that is the wonderful Nick Elston from Forging People, who we've had a great relationship with for the last 3 years and has been running all of our health and wellness campaigns across the forum. And the brilliant Julie Hedge, who I saw on social media this morning was Hedge the Ledge. Um,
I love that. It's so cool.
I I just think that's just all. I mean, there's one thing we've learned about you already, Julie. Do you know what I mean? We haven't even spoken to you yet. Yet we know how to address you. It's great. But just to say, I met Julie as she embarked on her. She was nominated for the Lifetime Achievement Award at Shoesmiths, and she won it. And what I loved is she owned that. She was like, for the whole year after that, she was like, "I'm a winner," you know. And
Wow.
she one of the things we asked our nominees in that year was, how are you going to help, to support and champion the profession? And I'm not going to take any light away from Julie, but what the work that she's done and the initiatives that she's managed to create at Shoesmiths and outside of Shoesmiths has just been fantastic. But it can take its toll. And so we'd love to hear your questions. Please pop those in the chat box as we go through. But I'm going to hand over to Nick and Julie, and I'm obviously going to be here as well. But just to say welcome, everybody. Nick, how have you been?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, really good actually. For a Monday, this is a pretty good start. I have coffee and I'm chatting to Julie, so we'll do this.
Oh, bless you. No, thank you both so much.
Thank you.
So thank you. I'm going to just put myself on mute if that's okay, just because I need to get a drink.
You rest up and
Sorry.
enjoy. It's fine, Dan. No
You
worries.
rest. Yeah.
Hey everyone, big thank you for joining our little session today. There's no slides or presentation, it's just a chat between myself and Julie, and you guys here that are live. If you are watching the recording, we'll give you a place to reach either of us at the end as well, in case you want to connect or have any questions or stuff. But we want it to be really informal, we want it to be interactive, so I've got the chat box up. I can see that because I'm not using the slide deck today. I guess let's take it from the start. In terms of introductions, my name is Nick Elston. I'm an inspirational speaker on the lived experience of mental health and a transformational speaking coach. It is a thing, I promise you. I'm also the founder of Forging People, and delighted to have worked with the PA Forum for the past few years. And I think right from the top, as soon as I was introduced to Julie, we had very real talk, and I'm a big fan of real talk, that not kind of putting that mask on, that gloss on. We were having really great conversations right from the start. So when I had a chance to interview Julie today, I really wanted to jump at that because she's just basically an awesome human being. And it's always good to know an awesome human being. So before we start with the questions in a very informal way, Julie, do you want to introduce yourself to anybody who may not know you? I mean, who would that be? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't? So, hello, everyone. So, my name is Julie Hedge. I'm a legal PA at Shoesmiths, which is a law firm in Birmingham, but it's also a national law firm. The nickname Hedge the Ledge has literally just come about and has evolved at Shoesmiths purely because I don't really take no for an answer. And if I see anything that could be changed or what have you, then I just do it and then seek forgiveness after. So lived experience in terms of my own mental health battles, which we can explore today. But yeah, today you've got the authentic me. And to be honest, everybody gets the authentic me. So so it's lovely. Thank you so much for giving up your time to listen to myself and Nick. It means a lot.
Thank you, Julie. And obviously, broader than Shoesmiths, you also have done work for the amazing people at Law Care as well. Amazing, doing amazing things. Great to see that kind of message is spreading as well. So let's kick it off right from the start. I'm a big nerd. I'm a big TV movie fan. So if you were kind of describing your career to date in movie form, what would the title be, and who would play you?
Oh, okay. So I think the movie title would be In the Pursuit of Happiness. I've been thinking about this all weekend. So, and I think in that sense, okay, the movie, Will Smith, homelessness, etc. So something I can't relate to, but what I can relate to in terms of resilience and determination. And I think that probably is a theme that, I've worked in the legal industry for 30 years. So I think that would be fair enough. In terms of who would play me, I think it would have to be a strong character with empathy and just a really strong, resilient character, but also somebody that wears their heart on their sleeve. Probably a Kate Winslet. So if you've seen her lately, she's very much about, pushing the norms and actually really taking people on in terms of their behavioural pattern. So I think I'd go with her because she does call out inappropriate behaviours and stereotypes. So yeah, I'm going with her.
I know that's
If
really
that's
cool.
okay.
Of course it is, absolutely. Sure. I think she should be so lucky. That's all I can say. One of the, do you know what, Julie? One of the commonalities I've seen over the past 11 years of speaking around mental health in kind of, especially corporate environments, that every mental health champion that I've spoken to, every mental health first aider, every amazing people leader, very often is in that position of helping other people because they have had negative experiences directly or indirectly of their own struggles, their own mental health challenges, or being treated unfairly themselves. Has that been the case for your journey?
It
Has that
has,
been
yeah,
shaped the way that you
absolutely.
are so passionate today about this stuff?
Yeah, and I am passionate about it. And the reason I'm passionate about it is I started out in law 30 years ago. And actually, you didn't talk about mental health. I was diagnosed with sort of clinical depression around my 20s, early 20s. But remembering I was working in a very fast-paced legal environment where everybody to me looked like they were performing, that they didn't look like me, they didn't talk like me, they didn't seem to have the battles like me. So I hid my symptoms extremely well. I would never phone in with I'm off work because of stress or I'm off work with mental health. It would always be a stomach bug or a migraine or something else. And then sort of life evolved, I guess. I struggled with my diagnosis at first, purely not out of shame, just purely because it was exhausting, because I had to wear a mask in the day, as in, I guess I'm not wearing that mask today because I am very authentic and I've come to terms with my diagnosis. So, but back then I had to wear a mask and I was exhausted because I was work Julie, and then coming home and I had nothing to give to my family then because I was just exhausted with the acting. And then I sort of worked in house as well, and did sort of all different roles, sort of health and safety coordinator. And then in about 2015, unfortunately, I had, I don't think they call them nervous breakdowns now, but effectively, I think it could, it was sort of a life-changing event, really. I think I just felt like I wasn't validated. I felt I wasn't being recognised. Derogatory comments were made. When I did take time off with mental health, when I was confident enough to do that in around 2015, I was ridiculed because I was told that I was still on Facebook, I was still doing things with my family, and people were reporting me for that. And I just felt that was a real turning point for me. And I ended up going off work and actually never thought that I would work again, because some of the derogatory comments, feeling undermined, not recognised, not good enough, really took its toll. And I ended up finding an amazing counsellor that literally, when I say saved my life, I didn't have any idealisations of suicide, but I was at rock bottom. And just by having a course of therapy with her, she actually validated how I felt. She was actually like, she'd gone from somebody that was really self-loathing and low self-esteem to validating that the comments made to me weren't right and weren't appropriate. And actually, I used to live my hour with her every week. And by the end of the sessions, I literally, when your course is over or your therapy sessions are over, I actually sort of just rose from the ashes, I guess. I used it as an opportunity to really reinvent myself and actually take no for an answer and actually say it's okay. It really is okay.
That must have been difficult because the backdrop, I mean, as somebody who works and has worked in the legal sector for that many years as well, that it's one of the last bastions of traditional business in that sense, and also traditional demographics. So whether that be through gender, sexuality, through mental health, mental illness challenges. So it's kind of it's not as if you were kind of working on your own within the organisation. Actually, it was an industry standard, wasn't it? About the kind of the conversations you must have been having and the pressure that must have been on you.
Yeah, absolutely.
The question that creeps into my mind though is that why did you take it from that point to I want to use this to help other people? Because as somebody who has done that themselves, that takes a lot of energy, and we know when we speak to other people, not often, but sometimes we can try to fix everybody else because we've had those experiences. And actually, very often you become that wounded healer. You give and give and give until you drop. So there must have been an element of you made that decision to then help other people, but how did you protect yourself through doing that?
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest part, is how do you protect yourself? Because then you're taking on that emotional empathy role, and you're hearing other people's stories. I think the biggest thing I learned was from starting the conversation, which was literally because I'd come back from work after a long period of time. I worked in house and I was actually doing a lot on health and safety. And actually one of those days I just sat in the room when I was lecturing on everything safety, and then thought, hang on, no one's talking about health here, and I sat in a room of about 40 tyre technicians that I just sort of shared my story and said, look, I've only just come back, blah, blah, blah. And honestly, I had 40 burly men just open up. And that was that turning point for me to say, actually, there's a lot of us, you're not alone. And then I created that safe environment, etc., etc. And then I listened, and then I just thought, hang on, we've got to do more. So we looked at mental health networks, we set up safe spaces, and we did that. But I think it wasn't really until I joined Shoesmiths, I guess, where actually I realised with them, they don't just do it for the sake of doing it. Does that make
Yeah,
sense? So they
absolutely.
don't just have mental health networks or mental health committees just because it's a tick box, just because it's something's got to be done. Everybody that's part of our network has lived experience for whatever, and we're there for each other, and we will listen, and we can't advise, of course we can't, we can signpost, but we can hear. And I guess that was the difference, is suddenly moving into a company that did it because they cared about their people and culture. Because it's very exhausting when you feel like you're working in an organisation where it is just you, and you are just having to protect your own sanity and your own mental health, because you're hearing things and listening to things and you can't help them because there isn't the support in place. I found that really difficult.
I think that's kind of like a common mistake that I see organizations use mental health first aid as kind of like a fourth emergency service, when actually it's an amazing education piece. It's an amazing, at best, kind of signposting piece, but it's absolutely, as you say, you're not there to fix. And I think very often they can be, and I see this a lot with people leaders and HR leaders, that they are used as that kind of place to kind of fob people off onto, that they don't want to deal with anymore. So it's great to see that culture is coming through in your conversation already. What I love is the fact that you've used your own lived experience to help engage other people. And for me, that's the secret ingredient. Is lived experience to me is the perfect vehicle to drive engagement to the solutions, but it's not the solution as well.
No.
So, and I think that's amazing what you've done in the space that you're in. Being able to share your experiences so openly, I think you should be really proud of that, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
I guess that you're going to have, there's this misconception though, that people that appear to have their, I'm told that I'm not going to swear today, I'm going to be a good boy today, people that have their stuff together, there's this expectation that you don't get down days, you know what to do, you have all the answers. But trust me, if you're anything like me, you do wake up in the morning not feeling life right now, you have your challenges and stuff. And so what do you do? What's your go-to to kind of make yourself kind of feel better, to bring yourself back together, to recharge your battery when you're not feeling life?
Yeah, so I think giving into it a bit. I think for years I fought it. So I think for years when I have the dark days and I can't, I couldn't get up and face the world, I think now I embrace that.
Yeah.
And I only embrace that purely because I've learned it doesn't last forever, and I suppose I hit rock bottom, so I know what that feels like. And I've also come on a really long successful journey personally, in the sense of I recover quicker now, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So before, when I couldn't face the day or I couldn't face the week, the weeks would go into the days would go into weeks, the weeks would go into months, and I'd be off work for those months and months and months. But now actually it's about validating how I feel on the morning. So when I wake up and it doesn't feel like a good day, in the sense of, whatever demons are in my head, or I'm just feeling really low, or I'm just feeling exhausted. It's about embracing that and then saying, okay, be real with yourself. What can you achieve today? What can you do today? And actually, every day I'm actually present. So it's actually just those little wins. And it's, as silly as it is, but that's what I do now. I actually just pat myself literally on the back and celebrate the little win. So it could be like today, I woke up, it's Monday. I hate Mondays, I'll be honest. I love today because we're doing this, but Mondays aren't a great thing. Do you know what I mean? So I took a bit of an extra lie in, and then had to take my son on a school run, and then wondered why I was stressed. Do you know what I mean? But then it's leveling yourself and going, okay, does it really matter? Does it really matter? So that big mountain I've set myself to climb today to get X, Y, and Z done. Do you know what? Let's be realistic. What am I going to achieve today?
Yeah.
And that's okay, because it's better to achieve, I don't know, 2 out of the 5 things I've set myself. And also just setting yourself realistic targets.
Yeah.
Being really real with yourself is what you're setting yourself. Is that you putting that pressure on?
Yeah.
Or is that pressure coming from your boss? But 9 times out of 10 for me, the pressure's coming from me, not my boss.
Self-imposed. I think there's really great sound kind of sporting psychology to that process called marginal gains that was created, I believe, by Sir David Brailsford. I think, don't quote me on that, but that kind of the daily incremental consistent changes you push towards a bigger picture result. I love that. But as you've mentioned, as you said, it's really important to acknowledge we do not live in a Disney movie. You will get knocked down, stuff will happen, you're not going to feel good right now. But as you quite rightly say, it's about how you bring yourself back. And thank you for sharing how you do that yourself. We've spoken about a bit about you, and we'll come back to that for sure. We've spoken about your industry. I want to talk about your role now as an admin professional, as an admin leader. I guess also as a people leader as well, somebody of influence through doing the work that you do.
Yeah.
You have unique insights to things like team dynamics and to the internal workings of how an organization runs. So I want you to talk about that and how that looks in your world, and how as an admin professional you kind of navigate that too. If that's okay.
Of course.
Yeah.
So I'm a personal assistant within Shoesmiths. The one thing I love with Shoesmiths is there is no hierarchy, in the sense of, now I was brought up by my late father, who was a police officer, so I've always understood ranks. I've always seen that my dad was always called sir, so there's always a natural hierarchy for me anyway, because I think you're born with and taught respect, aren't you, etc. So although there isn't a hierarchy as such, there is that mutual respect, and I think that's what's really important. It's the respect piece. And with business support, whatever function you are in within business support, I think that's what I found the hardest, in the sense of, in some companies I've worked for, you're not seen, you're not heard, and actually there's very little respect. You're seen literally as a support person, a number. You come in, you do what you're told, you go home, and actually there's no validation for your thought process. And actually I've used my award win, which I'm still dining out on because it was a lifetime achievement.
Good for you.
It's lifetime. So I am dining out, Daniel, and I will continue. But joking apart, I jest, but I've used that because I've seen behaviours, I've seen what bad looks like, and I've also seen what good looks like. And I've seen and the biggest thing for me was I suppose you could say I was classed as sort of a legal advisor or that, so like a paralegal. And then when I stepped down from that for my own mental health and went back to being a PA, I can remember working in a law firm, and they had like Friday drinks, and they'd bring the trolley round and it was Friday drinks. And I remember just taking a drink off the trolley, which we were allowed to do, and just using that opportunity to get up and network with everybody within the team I worked. And within minutes I was told to get back to my seat. And I was just like, oh. And there was such a distinct difference that had I been a paralegal, there would have been a seat at the table for me. But because I was a personal assistant, there wasn't. And I literally
Shocking. I actually genuinely was shocked by that.
No, and then I remembered that every Friday there was a drinks thing. I literally would sit at my desk, continue to type with a drink in hand. And that was the biggest thing for me to realise that actually you are seen really different. Suddenly, had I joined at a paralegal, I would have been seen very differently to when I was a PA. That company did not align with my views and my values at all. And I knew from previous mental health experience that that was not going to be the right environment for me. And their values didn't align, etc. And I moved on, and thank goodness I did.
Yeah,
but as part of that, I took that good, because what I also realised is there are going to be people that you're going to work with that aren't great. I'm just going to be honest with you, that aren't great. But it doesn't mean you have to change. You just role model good behaviours. And if you can role model those good behaviours, you'll be okay. And that's what I've done. Like going into the company I work for now with Shoesmiths, that's exactly what I've done. I've really, try on LinkedIn, but also with the conversations I have with people, is I really just try to empower them, and engage with them to say that they have a voice. And Shoesmiths does allow that, Shoesmiths does, and that makes it so much easier. But the role of a PA or whatever, it's fundamental, and we have to get away from the I'm just a PA, I'm just, and I find it, because actually, how do you dress it up? Because it wasn't only until last week when we went into the school and we did a CSR social mobility thing, when people sort of put you on the spot because they're curious, they're kids, and they said, what do you do? Actually, it's such a broad role that actually I don't think we give ourselves that recognition. Actually, what do we do? Because we're not a lawyer, so we can't say, well, we work on cases, We're not a doctor, so we can't say, but actually, what do we do? And until you sit down and map out what you do, it's extraordinary. So I've taken it upon myself to almost be a thought leader as being a PA. I've taken that upon myself. I talk to other PAs, I engage with other PAs, I role model behaviours, I support, I do everything I can to empower them, to actually show the value that they can add. And it's not easy, because you're going to find people that I've been experienced of will put you back in your box. But all I would say on that, I know we've got mortgages to pay, but there are companies out there that do value you, and they're, find somewhere whose values align, and be proud of who you are. You have a voice.
And there's something to be said for that. I think that very often it seems, again, it's another taboo to talk about, that actually you could just be the right person in the wrong place. It could be as simple as that, for sure. I remember one of the first conversations I had with Dan here when I started working with the forum a few years ago, was picking up on that line around who looks after the people, who looks after people. You are a community of people that support people. If you were picking a headline, I guess that's kind of the route you would go down. But a lot of that comes down to managing expectations, and expectations of people that you support, expectations of your team, but also as decent human beings and family members, as we all are, managing those expectations too. How do you do that? How do you kind of manage expectations of other people to make sure that actually it's set in the right way? Because otherwise, the anxiety only increases, doesn't it?
I think communication. I think, it comes down to that basic level of communication, whether that's new people that join in your team or you're taking on a new team. It's about being authentic and communicating who you are, how you like to work, what you can bring to the team, etc., etc., and just having that communication piece. And what I love is, people will actually, legal advisors will actually come to me, for advice on work, and that's not the legal work in terms of sort this contractual dispute out. I think you'll find I can't. It's more on the, how would you do this if you were in this situation with the client? How would you do this if you're in this situation with your PA? How would you, so actually people are coming to me now and from an operational perspective and saying, got this situation, how would you do it? And I think that's purely born out of me showcasing my integrity, me in showcasing my trust, me in showcasing I'm an effective communicator, and me also showing that I have natural empathy. But with that, also balancing that there is a job to be done. So we still have to deliver. There's still pressure. I'd be lying to say I don't work long hours. There is still a pressure, but it's managing that pressure as a team.
Yeah.
And actually looking at that skill set within your team and saying, who would be best to do this? And I've realised now, and I don't know if it's age, wisdom, I don't know what it is, but I realise now that actually it's not about me anymore. For me, it's about giving back and people in the team and giving them the opportunity.
Yeah.
It's exhausting if I try to do it all myself. I've been there, done that. I've taken time off sick. It's exhausting. So it's best to look within your team or outside of your team and say, actually, who is really good at this? Who is really good? People naturally come to me because Hedge the Ledge, the reputation, the ambassador for
That is so
Shoes.
good.
But actually I don't take it on myself now. I look and go, who deserves that opportunity? Who deserves to be able to do that? Who's got the right skill set? And I will coach, mentor, support, but I don't do it all now.
Yeah.
Because of my own limitations.
I want to talk about being vulnerable, because I remember having a CEO of a large financial services company come onto my podcast, and he's very open about his experiences of mental illness, which is an amazing thing. But actually, when I was working in his organization the month after, people were saying to me, well, it's easy for him to be open about it. He hasn't got that fear of being judged or dismissed or sacked or ridiculed or all these other fears we have associated with being more vulnerable. You have a platform, you are visible, you have a voice, you are known, certainly within the organization, definitely within the industry, but also broader now through the forum and stuff. If you have somebody who's fresh to the business, who is new to the business, who hasn't got those years, maybe not the seniority, how would you encourage them to be more vulnerable in a safe way, to open up in a way which allows them to showcase themselves, but also remain professional as well?
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? Because I've sort of been here, done that, and got the T-shirt. And I think what I have noticed is anybody sort of joining nowadays, the younger generation, dare I say it, are far more aware of mental health, and they're far more aware of what psychologically safe working environments look like. And I think that's a real positive, because I think we're having school leavers and uni leavers that are actually thinking university leavers, and I think they've had support, whatever their education is or whatever facility they've come out of from an education perspective, and their expectation is more on businesses now to carry that on. I think for me it's finding your person within your company that you can actually be real with, be vulnerable with, and you have that person to be able to say that's okay. Does that make sense? And to actually be vulnerable. But there's also that piece that, and I think and I don't know how to articulate it, so sorry on this webinar, but I think there's also that piece that you can be vulnerable, you can be authentic, but there's also a job to be done, and it's getting that balancing act, isn't it? I never bring my mental health into play to say I can't do that. I'm not doing that because I'm stressed. I actually have that communication piece to say I can do that. I just need some time to get my head around it, and I need to look at what resource I need to make this happen.
Yeah.
So I
I love
think for anybody coming in, it's just finding that person
Yeah.
and looking at that company's values, because I think that's really important. And I think you'll also see from their values and the behaviours in the team, in the department, actually does the company live by their values? So for my example of having that Friday drink and being able to feel like I could be vulnerable and authentic and talk and network, actually their values seem great for me, but then being told almost, no, sit back at your desk, there's work to be done, was almost like, so I can't actually be my true self then,
Yeah.
because my true self is that
Yeah.
person that likes to talk as well as get on with my work. When I say talk, I mean socialise in that environment, not talk as in gossip all day. do you know what I mean? So I think
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
I think you find it. I think once you walk into a company and you see people's behaviours and how they work, I think you're pretty clued up to know whether that's like whether you can be vulnerable and whether you can be authentic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
I mean,
I don't know if that answers the question, Nick.
no, it does. I mean,
It
like
does.
yourself, kind of looking back on my early career, being of that kind of generation where probably early 20s, I was told to lead through instruction. The actual corporate training was you tell people what to do and they'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they don't do it, you say it louder. Never worked then, by the way, never works now.
Yeah.
Now more than ever, it's about emotional leadership. It's your ability to show emotion safely and in a controlled way, your ability to influence people, which is what you are doing, or influencing people through using your experiences. So for me, emotional leadership is the way forward. One of the biggest assets you can have when it comes to emotional leadership is personal branding. How would you describe your personal brand? What kind of legacy that you hope you create with people, and how do you impact them? Because it's not just about how we dress and how we look and how we act. It's about legacy, isn't it? So actually, what would you describe your personal brand is? Hedge the ledge, the brand.
Hedge the ledge of the brand. I think it's I think it's that, isn't it? I think it's authentic. I think it's honesty. I think it's being able to look myself in the mirror at night and really know that A, I've done a good job, and B, I've treated people with respect,
Yeah.
and that I've treated them well. And even in difficult situations, I've also treated them well and understood, etc. So I think my legacy will always be that, as creating that safer space and creating that, just that. It's the whole be kind movement, but it's actually just role modeling the be kind. It's role modeling how you would want to be treated and how how you'd want your kids to be treated. You know, I've got 2 teenagers that will be going out into the big wide world soon, and I would hope that they will meet people like me along their journey that will nurture, will support, and will get the best out of people.
Yeah.
So in terms of a brand, I think I am the brand in sense of what being the change is and what being a good, wholesome person looks like.
Yeah, I love that. It's really cool. So if I were introducing you to the stage, what would your walk-up music be?
Oh, so I had this the other day, and I was doing an event, and it was Katy Perry, Fire. Is it Fire, I think, or I can't think what it is now. Raw. Sorry, it was
Raw,
Raw.
yes, raw,
Yeah.
yeah, great, yeah,
And
great team,
actually,
great.
when
That's
somebody
really cool.
when somebody said, "Oh, what's your music?" and I was like, "Oh, I don't know. I'm not very good at things like this, you see." And I was like, "Oh," and I was a bit, and then they said Raw, and I was like, and when I walked on stage, I was like, "Yeah,
Liner.
you're
That's
hearing me now. This is me. This is my vibe. I'm here."
I like that. I think that's really cool. I guess I want to wrap up because I want to make sure people in the live room will have a chance to ask you questions.
Yeah.
But I guess if you were to give one piece of advice to somebody, kind of following behind you in that sense, about how they can start to open up and to find their voice within an organization. Again, very often this can come down to gender, for sure. I see this a lot in certain industries, that being the only woman at the table, for example, can have an impact. But also in terms of the things that we talk about. Again, we talk quite openly now, thankfully, around mental illness and mental health challenges, but there are still things that we all experience that we don't talk about. So grief is one of those things. And doing a lot of work recently on grief and loss, that's been a huge challenge, but people don't talk about that stuff, but it impacts every one of us. things like menopause that I've covered recently with a menopause specialist, all these kind of different things we talk about that are taboo issues. So everyone in your team, everyone around you has their own experiences, their own lives. How do you encourage people? What advice would you give to people to find their voice, to open up about their challenges if they feel that it's appropriate for their work?
I think absolutely what you've just said, I think that just resonates with me so much. In terms of the grief, I lost my dad in January 24, and it hurts so bad. And until you go through that lived experience, that horrible, you don't know what that looks like. And I guess before, when I was still am a mental health champion and would talk to somebody about grief or what have you, I wouldn't know what that felt like, and now I do. And I think there's also things like the menopause. I think there's also things like baby loss. I think, until you sit in a safe space and you hear people and you put yourself in their shoes and you hear what they've gone through, I think my advice is, if you're that person, if you've got that natural empathy and you're talking to somebody and they're sharing something with them, empower them to actually be the change and be the movement. So the other week I sat on a table literally for lunch, and all these young moms that have returned to work as solicitors, and they've all got their own insecurities, their battles, their that. And I was like, right, you need to go and speak to X, and we need to do something about welcoming women back into work after that. And then the grief, because I've experienced it, what is there that can be done better? Because actually, if we get that right, people are likely to be able to come back to work, gradually, and build their resilience up over time. So I think my advice is, be that change, be that person. If you're hearing something, reach out, find somebody of like-minded and start creating your own safe spaces. As actually, it doesn't cost. Putting little networks together doesn't cost in terms of a direct cost in terms of a room or what have you. There's an indirect cost, of course, because it's your time and it's voluntary and what have you. But I think that would be me. And somebody called me a trailblazer the other day, and I thought, am I? But actually, if I hear something and I've got my ear to the ground and I hear something that I think actually that's not right, be that change, have that conversation with somebody, and empower them to do something and get it on the agenda.
Yeah, so, and I think you're right. I think resilience is only forged through adversity. But the thing is, hindsight's a beautiful thing that we don't possess. We don't see it at the time. And also recognizing that, I'm sure at the time, and I'm really sorry to hear about your loss, by the way, that would have impacted the way that you shared as well. So actually, it's all about kind of putting yourself first and foremost. We're not great at that, though, are we? We're not great at being selfish, but we need to be.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Can I just say thank you so much for having this chat with me? I've loved it. I forgot we had an audience as well at stages. It's just kind of dropped out, but I've really enjoyed our chat today. Thank you.
Thank you.
If people want to reach out to you, where are you?
So I'm at Shoesmiths. So you can contact me either on LinkedIn, Julie Hedge, or you can contact me through my work, which is julie.hedge@shoesmiths.com if you want. Or you can contact me via Daniel, and I'd love to have a chat or see how I can help or just support or what have you. If you're going, not necessarily if you're going through, obviously I'm here as a listening ear if you're going through something, but also if you just want to drive change within your organisation, I'm here if you want to reach out to me, of course.
And my advice would be actually to go in and see if hedgetheledge.com is available and buy it.
Yeah. I'm gonna literally, Nick, I'm looking at GoDaddy as we speak.
Exactly.
Is the domain available? But no, Julie, thank you so much for sharing, because we did a session last year, and it was quite difficult to find it. What I love our community so much. It is difficult. We do have a natural we do have a natural quite a heavy population of our community who have never spoken on a meeting for a significant period of time. So, and or maybe had the opportunity where I've just thrusted a microphone in someone's face, for example, or they've done the Find Your Voice live experience with Nick. So when people are really willing to put themselves forward, especially when they're talking about very personal things as well and their journey. I'm so grateful for that, because we can't ever make people, and we can try and incentivize it as much as we like, but we get I think the most powerful thing that we get is our own experiences from each other, and the things that we've learned along the way. So thank you for sharing today. We really appreciate it. I'm going to stop the recording now just so we can open up the floor to questions. But thank you so much to Julie Hedge and the wonderful Nick Elston. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Oh, Daniel. Oh, Daniel.
I literally, I coughed